Hey, everybody. Welcome back to We've Got Issues. It's good to be with you again for another round of conversations amongst a group of men who have been friends for more than 40 years. We enjoy coming to you every time, maybe once or twice a week, with some of the things that have bubbled up in our personal text thread with our other friends, all of which met way back when in college. We have a good time discussing current events, but also just things that we are talking about that may have nothing to do with the political or financial climate. But oftentimes we're looking to you to see what you think of what we are talking about and if it's as important to you as it is to us. So with that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Nick Cates, Los Angeles realtor. I got my friend Darren Gray, who's an academic in USC, big time, big shot at the university. And we got Ron Evans, who also we met at USC way back when, but is now a big time executive in the computer industry back in Virginia. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
All right. So again, we hope you like and subscribe and share your comments with us on what we're going to talk about today. And today you'll have some important things, I'm sure, to hear from our good friend Ron, who has the floor today to talk about what's on your mind that bubbled up in our text thread. All right.
So my word or phrase of the week is wanna dance.
Wanna dance.
Wanna dance. And what that means is there used to be a time when we were in college or high school where we would say, you know what? I see her over there. And we would leave our tribe and we would walk over there and we'd say, want to dance? And sometimes they'd be like, nah.
The long walk back.
And we'd make a U-turn and walk back, and our friends would be like, struck out, didn't you? And we would laugh about it, and then it's like, okay, where's the next honey? And that was the way the game worked, and that's how it was. Nowadays, there is this incel movement where when you walk across the dance floor, and I'm using the virtual dance floor of Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but be it virtual or physical, you walk across the dance floor, you ask the person, hey, you want to dance? And the woman or the girl says no, just like it did to us. But instead, the behavior is now to demonize the woman, the girl, to say, oh, you're one of them. You don't like me because I'm not an athlete or I'm not rich. You're the problem. It's not that maybe I shot a little too high, because we all did that. We all did that. But it's a you problem. You don't see that I'm a great catch. And you're doing that because, women are evil. Women only want 20% of the men. I think it's 80% of the women only want 20% of the men. And therefore, you as a male, you are now a victim. You're a victim of those women, and you start demonizing them. Andrew Tate is very infamous for this. And I don't know what has happened in our world where when you go across the dance floor and you're rejected, you don't just say, you know what? It just didn't work out. Maybe she's higher class than I was in terms of, whatever, she wants to go to these restaurants. I want to go to those restaurants. Now it's that girl's the problem. And I don't know what's happened to our society, and especially our young kids. I'm going to mention the Netflix series Adolescence, which really explores this topic, and it does it in an incredible way. But it just makes me think, and I've talked to one of our daughters about this, and she says it's real, that guys demonize women if we say no. And I don't know what's changed in our society to cause this. So, what do you guys think?
Well, I demonized women myself back in the day if they didn't, if they were turned off by my advances. So I don't see anything new with that. That's a you thing, girl. You not kidding me. That's your problem. You need to get your eyes checked. But I think that's an issue that in some ways it's the issue as old as time that. It's difficult. I know that there was a time when I was much shyer in my earlier youth, and was very devastated by having my advances to, a person turned off. In many ways, I was not willing to, to put myself out there unless I had a good feeling like my approach was going to be received properly, or to my liking, I should say. But there came a time, there was I don't even know when it was in life when like my switch got flicked, where it's like I realized that getting rejected, I used to say this to myself all the time, getting rejected is not the worst thing that can happen. It's not being in the game. That's the worst thing that can happen. And I think that maybe part of the culture today is that, there are issues with social media, causing expectations to be unaligned with reality in many different ways, whether you're not in a relationship or you're in a relationship. People tend to gravitate toward the shiny object, like, well, if you're in a relationship, then you should be the queen or you should be the king. Or if you're not in a relationship, like everybody else is, and you're not, or your little side, or even the incel silo, where it's like, okay, your problem is not your problem. It's because of someone else's problem, and you're the victim of that. I mean, you see that in many different areas of society, right? Not just in a relationship sense. So I think part of it is that somehow we've gotten off track from the idea that your destiny is in your own hands. Darren, you take it.
Well, I got two things. I'll go with the more fun one first. So Wesley Snipes. So before Wesley Snipes and Mo Better Blues, those of us who were a little more of the chocolate persuasion had to work a little harder to get the dance. Back in the 80s, it was El DeBarge and Prince and the new version
Ron
Evans. The light-skinned
Oh my God,
would always get the girls. Like, I hated being around Ron because Ron was foreign. You remember those pictures he posted? I was like,
oh my God,
what an attractive man he was.
Even my wife, I was like, hey, you better get off Ron.
Oh,
those pictures are 30, 40 years old. He ain't that cute.
I remember when I saw those pictures, I was like, yeah, I remember. If I'm standing next to Ron, I got no play. But then,
not true, but go ahead.
Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
Like when Wesley Snipes in Mo Better Blues, they had that love scene and women start looking at the Chocolate Brothers. Man, that we talk about a switch flipping, Nick. After that, I always got the dance. And when he was going to jail, I was trying to pay his tax bill. I was like, Wesley should never go to jail. What do I got to do to pay his tax bill?
Exactly.
That's point number one.
Right. And Team Light Skin is taking L's. Don't forget about Drake.
Well, yeah, Wesley flipped the switch.
Still taking L's.
But I think it happened with Columbine because those two were ostracized not only by the athletes, but by women as well. And that's why a lot of the incels look up to those two. I wouldn't even say their names because they see that they took back, their manhood, with the guns and the violence. So a lot of those incels will look at these shooters, and a lot of those shooters are you notice they don't have, you very rarely hear about, well, his girlfriend said. It's usually an ex-girlfriend. So I think Columbine started that, we're outcasts and therefore we get to solve that with violence. I think that's when it started. I think that was 95. I think that started the path toward the incel community. And remember, there was that one guy from San Diego, Santa Barbara or something. He shot up everybody. He was an incel, and he made a whole video about how women weren't giving him his sex and everything. So I think that part of it, started with that fighting back against the cool kids in school, and more importantly, Wesley Snipes.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So Ron, you've got 2 daughters, and I know that, I'm almost, I'm in my late 50s now, and my wife has a lot of single female friends. And one thing that I'm always curious about is that there are so many single women, particularly, of our age group and even younger. But you're saying your daughters in their age demographic are seeing that it's probably hard for them to, find guys, or guys don't come up to them. Tell me what your daughters are telling you about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean exactly. The challenge is you're trying to find someone to date, and you're using the dating apps. And our older daughter, who's in the workforce, she's not seeing a lot of explicit incel remarks at her, but she knows that it's out there and that it's happening, and that she knows people that it's happening to. It's just a general vibe of what's going on with the dating. So rejection is a problem where it's the woman's fault for rejecting someone. I to make it less personal, I saw this video I was on YouTube, and this guy, he didn't seem like he had a lot going for him, and he was complaining about how, I can date unattractive women, but I want like somebody really fine, and not his word fine, but and it's like, but they won't date me, and it's their fault. And and I thought to myself, like, well, maybe if you cut your hair and you put on a nice shirt, and I don't know what you do, for work, but maybe the woman is saying that you're not good mating material because I don't think that you're someone that is of equal standing or stature in terms of values, community, whatever. It's not. See, one of the things that's happened in this age is we have accelerated the bifurcation of people based on economics. And we've done that through dating apps. We've done that through college education. We've done that through whether you live in a city or a rural area. And the dating apps are sort of the hub where you can literally select, I want someone like this with this criteria, that is this fit, that has this degree, and you can select who you're interested in, and implicitly who you're not interested in. So I think there's a technology component that, and certainly social media, that has really exacerbated this problem. And if you are not in that selection criteria as a male, for whatever reason, you think that, okay, it's those women who are the problem, but it's really a societal problem, as you're saying, Nick, which is we're in an age now where we are self-selecting what we want and not opening up to the possibility of walking across the dance floor and meeting somebody, and all you know is that they look cute. You don't know whether they have a degree. You don't know what they work and or their income. None of that stuff You just are like meeting someone and going from there. But now I don't want to meet a large swath of people.
Right.
And because of that, if I'm in that excluded group, I look at the women like, oh, it's your fault. You only want to date men that have high-paying jobs, that are good-looking. You're shallow. It's your fault that I'm single and that I'm an incel.
Right. Darren brought up Columbine as maybe an inciting incident, to this. I think that the messages that we've been getting as a society, to put an even finer point on what I was saying before, is that failure is not an option. Like if you win, if you succeed, you don't necessarily get the credit, but if you fail, you take the blame, right? And so think about like back in 2008 when there were certain companies that were too big to fail, right? Like the financial crisis happened. So, well, the natural order of capitalism is that certain companies will succeed and others will fail and they'll be replaced by other things, right? You've got the idea, even with the last election, that Biden, beat Trump. And I'm not saying this from a political standpoint, but there were some people who refused to believe that we could lose. Like democracy is like you have to be willing to lose in order to run, right? Like democracy only works if you can accept the failure and come back again next time, right? You don't just throw out the system or say the system's rigged simply because I did not win, right? Now, that doesn't mean the system's perfect, but the point is that you have to be willing to take an L sometimes. Taking an L isn't the worst thing in life. And you think about all the parents that have raised their children, in a coddling way, where they tried to give them every single advantage that they could have. And if they suffered a defeat in some way, whether it's on the soccer field or they got a B- on a test or whatever, it's always someone else's fault. It's not, they'll go argue with the teacher about the grading criteria rather than saying, well, you need to try harder, Johnny, or whatever the case may be. I mean, there's a million different reasons, but the message that we're getting, even on college campuses where, people talk about the whole woke agenda and they don't want to hear from people with dissenting views about, like, if you're on an Ivy League campus and there's some conservative that comes, we don't want you to be able to speak on campus. Like that whole idea that I don't want friction in my experience. I don't want to have to consider other people's thoughts. I think is all part of this whole idea. And where it's trickling down to is that even in the mating process, like failure is the worst thing that can happen to you, as opposed to saying, well, I'm good enough, I'll get the next one. Or maybe that person will come back around to me, or whatever the case may be.
And, I reminded of an earlier conversation when Ron talked about the job of a husband is to go out, kill something, and drag it back to the cave. Well, for women, they're sizing up. Are you capable of going out, killing something, and bringing it back to the cave? And they assess that, how you walk, how you talk, the way you carry yourself, how you look. They're making that assessment right off the bat. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, I had a lot of attractive female friends when we were in college. And I was definitely in the friend zone. Man, I get that first job offer from Hughes, and my friends who I thought we was ace boon coon start talking about when are we going out to dinner, and I'm like, what? Well, and I even asked one of my friends, I was like, I don't understand. You keep asking about going out to dinner. We've been going out to dinner forever, going Dutch. And she said, well, now that you have a career, I see you differently. And, I was like, you didn't like me, Poe? You ain't getting me rich. And so, and that was just my philosophy. That in thinking back, it's probably not the best philosophy. But the thing was, I had a lot of potential.
Yep.
And potential was not getting me across the goal line. But once I got that offer and started working as an engineer, a whole bunch of my female friends looked at me differently as a potential mate. And that, we had known each other for 3 or 4 years. And I figured I just was never going to get that door. So, I didn't even try anymore because the light-skinned brothers got all the action.
Come on, man. Man, let me tell you a story about one of Nick's friends from UCLA. We were at one of your engineering friends that you introduced me to's house. I think it was her house.
Yeah.
And your good doctor friend, Dr. J, and her UCLA buddy were there. And I was like, damn. Oh my God, she's fine. She's fine.
She was too.
She's fine. Oh, she was fine. So apparently, word got back to me through our buddy from McAllister, that she couldn't take a man seriously that drove a convertible rabbit.
He's not a hunter-gatherer.
Exactly.
He's not going to kill the bear.
He's not getting the bear and the rabbit.
And all I could think 30-some years later, as I'm driving around in my Porsche, can you take me seriously now?
Why you like me now?
Right, because and I say that because, and Darren, you made the really good point. There's a meme that I've saved and I shared it with my wife because it so rings true. And it goes like this. When I met my wife, I had nothing but potential. And when someone bets their life on you, you make sure they win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think about. It's like there are good women out there. They're like, you know what? You may be a cheap stock, but I see a lot of growth potential in you. I'm going to polish you up a little bit, teach you how to speak right, and they're out there. But there are definitely those that it's like, I'm going to judge you on what you drive and peace. But they do exist.
Yeah, and like I said, it wasn't until after I took that offer that things start rolling in. Like the two things that made a difference was my job offer from Hughes and Wesley Snipes, because that changed my world.
Yeah, you got to give Michael Jordan some love too, because the whole bald head.
I'll give him some love, but it was that Mo Better Blues scene.
I hear you.
That's what made the difference.
Yeah, I do think though, I try and look at these things from above just the issue itself. And I see there being just a bigger, because the question is, so what do you do? How do you train people to be willing to risk, right? It's like a low risk, low reward thing. And we're being there's an incentive and there's a business model in keeping people beholden to the idea that they're a victim in some way. You can look around you. Look around you at all the different things. I mean, it's also been put on Black people as a community, for example, that, the welfare queen, or you guys need handouts from the government, or it's not your fault, and on the liberal side, it's like, well, it's not your fault that you're, a victim of this or you're a victim of that. So whether there's truth or not truth in that, those things exist. And now that the economy and the world seems to be much more complex to actually make it in general. So even from a fundamental relational standpoint, the dynamics in the social media age of meeting people is a lot different. And so it's an easy fallback for some people to say, well, I'm not going to risk, getting out there and doing what I can do. I may not be able to have, name the most Kim Kardashian or whatever. I may not be able to date that person, but I can be the best version of myself. Ron, I know you like Scott Galloway, right? So, and the way he approaches this whole idea, which I agree with also, that, if you're not working out, you're not, taking care of yourself, you're not taking a bath, you're not, you're not going out and actually putting yourself in social environments where you have to actually succeed, you're probably not, and that's not necessarily somebody else's problem. At the same time, I think women, to Darren's point, or maybe Ron, you were saying it too, there's some blame to be placed, or some self-reflection that should be had in terms of not lowering your standards per se, but having more realistic standards. You, Ron, and I completely applaud Courtney, because when she accepted your marriage proposal, you were an uncut diamond at that point, man. You were I'm playing with you, but of course, I think all of us at that stage, and you got married probably the first of our group, one of the first of our group,
Well, no,
we did. Yeah, we
Oh,
got married.
okay, that's right.
Don't you remember the Kiss the Bride?
Oh my God! Don't bring that. I don't want to. I couldn't unsee that. I couldn't unsee that moment. That was terrible.
Oh my God!
Terrible. It was like watching a porno. I was like,
I was not expecting that
going on. So
and
anyway,
then I remember also, her side of the family cheering, and you guys.
we're all aghast. But the point is that both of you guys were certainly not the people that you would become.
Okay.
And for someone to take a chance on you, at that stage of life, says a lot about the potential that you were mentioning. And I think most people, women included, and I think in some cases rightfully so, don't want to take a chance because women have been coming up in society so much. Like, listen, I can do bad by myself, and if you don't even show a glimmer of whatever, then I don't need to take any, because they've been probably hit in the head a few times by trying to take guys on potential and getting messed over.
Well, that's real talk, because one of the phrases that I use with our older daughter is you could be broke on your own. You don't need a man's help.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, manage your money, know how to manage your finances, know how to have your career so you have your own money, and also know when there's someone, a potential mate, that doesn't know how to manage their money, because they're going to be a drain on you. Yeah. Hopefully you're going to be equally yoked, so both of you guys know how to do these things. You have the same ambitions in life, not necessarily career, but life. So there's you're equal. But if there's a disequilibrium and you're the one saving and your spouse is spending, it's like, you could be broke on your own. That person is helping you become broke.
Yeah.
Ron, I don't know if you remember, there's this tall, brown-skinned, beautiful woman we went to school with. Initial TB. And she was
TB or TG?
I'm not sure what. I think it's TB. Okay, anyway, but she was tall, beautiful, brown skin, and she talked about how journalism made.
Yeah.
How she would tell dudes the truth, like, you have no shot with me, so we can be friends, but know that I will never date you.
Oh my God!
And we were sitting outside of. Back then it was Commons. We were sitting outside and you were having a conversation with her. And I asked her, I said, wow, you just come out like that. She said, why would I want to hurt someone's feelings when I can just tell them the truth? Why would I want to even accept a date from somebody who has no chance? Why would I even entertain it to give them some false hope? Yeah. I think that's cruel. I think it's better if I tell them the truth, that we can be friends, but as long as we were friends, you will never kiss me. You'll never go on a date with me. When she said that, she wasn't talking to me because she was too tall. And I was like, yeah, I can't date you because I can't reach you to kiss you. She was.
Nick, you know who you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Nick, I think so. We'll confirm afterwards.
But she said
the two friends were T and G.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I got you.
But what that did is that liberated me from fear of rejection, because she wasn't talking to me. But when she said that, it dawned on me that when someone says no, they are doing me a favor, because she was like, I could go out on a date. I can, because she was fine. Like, I can go on dates. I can do this. I can do that. I can take you for all your money and know that I'm not going to get it. She's like, that's cruel. I want you to know the truth, because now we can be friends without pretense. And she was an amazing person, but I really liked her as a human being after that, because she was fine. I knew I didn't have a shot because she was too tall, but there's that part of you which is like, yeah, maybe I might be able to slide in. She's like, never. And so, so that actually helped me to deal with rejection from women, because I realized they were actually doing me a favor by saying no.
Yeah. So this is crazy, because I have a similar story involving the two of them, because they were thick as thieves.
Yep.
And I can confirm she was fine. Oh my God, she was fine.
Both of them were, weren't they?
You get that message. The girl was quite attractive.
Ooh,
Lord.
I mean, yes. But I looked at both of them, and I also knew that I didn't have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, and I knew that they were classy. I knew that they had different expectations on life than I did. And I'm sure it's because of their parents' background, their upbringing. Like, I knew that I did not have a shot of being in their world and going to the places that they liked, and I was broke. And I just knew that, okay, it's not them, it's me, and move on.
And mind you, Ron was fine at that time. So if the fine dude,
he was the Drake of his day. He was
the fine, light-skinned dude who didn't have a chance.
El DeBarge of his day.
Oh my God.
So and another story of where a date did not work out is I went on a date with this girl who the family was the next door neighbors to Ken Norton. I think that was in Ladera, Upper Ladera. And the girl, I met her at Hot Dog on a Stick in Fox Hills Mall. She was a little cutie, Fox Hills Mall. I'm like, hey, you want to go on a date? So we called each other, and she says to me, I asked her where she wants to go on a date. And she says, Monty's. Now, for those that don't know, Monty's Steakhouse is at the top of some building in Westwood with a view of the city. And I'm like, oh, okay, Monty, sounds good. Sounds good.
They have hot dogs there?
I talked to my buddy, and he's like, dude, do you know how expensive Monty's is? And I'm like, no, I don't. He's like, it's really expensive. So on the date, it was like, you know what? I really don't want to go to Monty's. How about we go to Pizza Hut?
Woo!
It was one date.
What you were really saying, what she was saying to you is, hey, Ron, can you make my dream come true? Like real talk. She's like, you're like, where do you want to go on a date? She's like, wow, it's my dream to go to Monty's. Like, I've heard about it or I've seen it or whatever. And you were saying to her, like, hey, listen, I can't make your dreams come true. That's not even my job. I just want to see you in a reasonable way. But what the upshot of that is that she's asking you to make an investment. You want to see me make an investment, right? And to this incel idea, right? That's part of it too. Like, as a guy, right? Yeah. You're going to have to make some investments and determine whether that investment's worthwhile. Now, you have to make a calculated one, and I applaud your decision to propose Pizza Hut, because at least you weren't saying let's go Dutch, right?
Right.
Which is another thing. But yeah, that's
well, I doubt I could have afforded my plate at Monty's going Dutch. But Nick,
can I have some water, date?
Exactly.
Lemon.
I ate earlier.
Right. I wasn't that classy. I would, but Nick, that's one scenario. The other scenario that I thought of is, this is what she's accustomed to. We were talking off the air about what it costs to go to dinner in LA, and if your expectation is that you're going to go to a certain restaurant because that's where your parents have always taken you, and that's my normal life, and then here comes 19, 20-year-old Ron, this broke AF, and I'm like, can we go to Tito's Tacos? You're going to be like, yo, no, we're not the same. Yep. But that's okay.
Right.
And it's okay to have somebody say no and close the door, because maybe there's going to be another door open for you that you don't realize.
That's true. Or it's a call to arms. I know for me, in some cases, the people that I dated often started as friends, right? So we started as friends, and I don't know if they were as blunt that I had no chance, but we started as friends, and then, you're spending time together, and sooner or later it's like, it's a thing. But also for a lot of guys, I think a no is just a, not in a creepy, not in a stalky way, but it's a call. It can be a call to arms. It's like, okay, well, you say that today, but when you get to know me, or if I spend more time with you or whatever, maybe I'll change your mind. I think that's completely another way of taking it, again, without necessarily, being inappropriate in your aggress or in your relentlessness or whatever to date somebody. But either way, I think the L in my personal life, L's were just a great way of me saying, I'm in this game. Somebody's going to see me. And by the time I got to be adult age, you guys, that's the thing about you guys getting married so early, is that you were like, and particularly you, Ron, you were one and done, right? So, you were out the game pretty quick. But I didn't get married initially until I was in my 30s, my late 30s. And so I had a lot of times at that. Yeah.
That's a story about that. In San Diego, Leland and I, our buddy, should have said his name, but anyway, we were on the dance floor and we were dancing with this couple of women, and I invited one of them out to dinner, and we went to dinner out in Century City, and we were talking and everything, and she was one of your your first wife's friends, and we hit it off. And then I called her a couple of weeks later, and I was like, hey, do you want to go out? And she blew me off. I thought we had a great time, but she found out that I was a lowly teacher, and she was like, no. She drove a Porsche. I can't even remember her name, but she was pretty. She drove a Porsche. We went out one time, had a great time, but during the conversation, she was assessing whether I could go out, kill something, and drag it back to the cave. And she was like, I'm not looking for berries. I'm looking for a bear. And all you dragging back is berries as a teacher. Yeah. And when I called her up, she was like, yeah, I'm really, really busy, so I'm not gonna have time to go out. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was cool with it, but I was like, oh, she dumped me.
Yeah. So, all right, Ryan, give you last word on this. Let's go ahead and bring it on home.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the concern about just dating, it's a tough one. I don't think that this incel Andrew Tate phenomenon is like 75-80% of like what's going on out there in a certain demo, but it is out there, and it's because our youth can go to their room after they've been rejected and get confirmation on the internet that it's okay, it's not your fault, it's them and it's someone else's fault for why you're sitting in your room tonight by yourself. It's a problem. And I think that we've all touched on it. Actually, I haven't, but dating is a numbers game, and you do have to adjust your sights because, as we mentioned with the two fine girls from SC, fine. There's no shot.
Yep.
There's just no shot. Okay. That's cool, or the girl that I dated or I went on a date with, they wanted to go to Monty's Steakhouse. It's like, we're not the same, and that's okay. And I'll tell you, there's a Netflix series called The Older Daters, I think it's called. Later Daters.
Yeah.
And there's a great scene in one of the episodes where this couple is going on a date, and the guy asked the woman, hey, the woman asked the guy, where do you go on vacation? And the guy says, I like to fish. I like to go to Montana. I like to, just go to Idaho fishing. What about you? And the woman says, last year I went to Johannesburg. And the year before that, I went to Barcelona. I really like Barcelona. And, there was this pregnant pause. And everyone knew, especially the two of them, they're not on the same wavelength,
Mhm.
and it's not going to work out. And that's okay in dating. Just move on. And hopefully we can get through and get to our kids, especially our young males, and say it's okay if someone rejects you. Just walk across the dance floor and find the next cutie and try it again.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I want to add on that I've noticed, particularly among successful Black women, is that they get to a certain age and they end up settling for guys that probably are not at their level. I've seen it a lot for, women in their late 30s who are successful, career-wise, attractive. They get to a point where there's not as many, particularly if they want to date Black men, there's not as many, and they end up dating guys with potential, and it never ends well because they're in different spaces. And it's just something I noticed a lot of with a lot of my mentees, where they're having trouble in relationships. So, part of this is, I just think that that the male pool isn't what it used to be.
Absolutely.
Like we were all swimming in the same pool. Just don't stand next to Ron if you see a cute girl, because Ron was fine.
And I mean that in a terribly masculine way.
I do. When Ron published the pictures from you guys' trip back in DC, I had withdrawal and PTSD. I had to go look in the mirror and say, "You're okay. You're okay."
Yes. So now you see what really goes on in our text threads and stuff. So we've revealed a little bit about that. So
don't believe the hype. I was at the plate taking strikes.
Nick, in the show notes, you need to put a picture of Ron that he posted. That's what you need to do, so they can see how fine this brother was.
I'll have to get his release for that, and we'll see if we can make that happen. But yeah, no, it's a good topic. It's a worthy topic, and if you have personal or observational thoughts about what's happening, particularly as it relates to relationships, men and women, and this whole idea about people not being able to come together, whether it's because of where men are in our society or women are, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. And we don't necessarily expect you to agree, but if you do, that's fine too. So Ron, thanks for that topic. And why don't you leave us with a parting shot for the week, something else that's of interest to you?
Yeah, I think that the whole genesis of this thought was the Netflix series Adolescence, and it's only four episodes. It is shot in a very memorable way. It's shot with one camera, and the way they shot it is they did 10 takes over 10 days. It's one take, it's no interruptions, there's no edits, and they took the best one of the 10 for that episode, and they did that 4 times. And it is a story of a young 13-year-old boy that is accused of killing a classmate. And it is so dramatic, and it doesn't tell it in an American way because it's a British show. So that alone means the storytelling is different than what we're used to. It's just phenomenal. I watched it once, and then last night my wife and I binge watched it because she hadn't seen it yet. She'd heard about it on Pivot from Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher. It is the talk of a lot of the internet right now in terms of movies and TV shows. Cannot recommend it enough. It's awesome.
Yeah, I watched it also. I thought it was, very compelling. I like the not only the aesthetic value of it, but the way it kind of ends is, again, like you said, not the way a typical U.S. Story would end. So I can recommend that also.
I passed on it because I just couldn't deal with the emotional baggage of it. I was like, you know what? that's going to cause me some issues. So, you know, there's a lot of shows I just pass on because I'm like, you know what, I don't want to deal with those emotions. You know,
Your son is much older now.
yeah, but just you know, I got grandkids and I'm thinking about, you know, what they would have to, you know, it just, you know, it's I'm like, I have enough nightmares on my own. I can't be worried about, you know, stuff happening with my, you know, just
well, okay, but that's an interesting point, and I think I'm trying to parse this very carefully, Nick. I think adults, parents, grandparents, they need to be aware of what their kids are exposed to.
oh, yeah,
If for no other reason.
I'm gonna have my son watch it. Like, dude, you need to watch this. I just, you know, there's some shows that are good shows, but, you know, as I've gotten older, I realize that I can be negatively impacted for weeks by watching a show that because it just grates on me because I can't, you know, emotionally it's just traumatic. So, you know, there's certain shows I'm like, somebody's got to tell me if it's okay for me to watch before I can even watch it. Right. And it's you know, I used to watch everything. Like I can't watch serial killers. I can't watch, you know, any of those things. I just can't because you know, it just stays with me long. And I was like, I don't like that feeling. So hey,
everything ain't for everybody. You got to know when you know, when it's not for you. So I am not mad at that. But yeah, if you've seen it or you have thoughts about Adolescence, which is again on Netflix, we'd love to see what your thoughts are on that. So with that, it's been another very stimulating conversation. Appreciate you bringing this to us, Ron. It was, I think, the people who are watching or who check us out will probably have some relationship to it too, because it's such a ubiquitous topic right now. So again, we thank you guys for watching. We welcome your comments and your feedback, and we hope you'll again like and subscribe. And Ron, Darren, always good stuff, brothers. We'll do this again next time, huh?
Yeah. And I don't know if we made this point strong enough. She was fine.
She was. But then again, so was Ron.
Right, yeah. But the two takeaways from this conversation is that she and Ron were both fine. So,
fine.
Minor league, major league. That's the difference.
All right. Hey, thanks again, guys, for joining us. We're going to see you next time. We've got issues. We'll see you next time.